Can you talk about the circumstances that led to you being unhoused?
To be very honest, being my circumstances that led me to being unhoused was my choice in life that I chose to use drugs. And in that choice to use drugs, it took me away from being responsible. I didn't have a lot of support. I didn't also have, I had lost my dad when I was very young, and in terms of being separated and abandoned. So I lived with my mom around the age of 10. If I could actually think back to the moment that it happened, it would be just like yesterday. My dad was an alcoholic, kind of abusive towards my mom. And she managed to continue living, till I was like, I'd say about 10. I have other brothers and sisters, but we all lived together. But I'd say from the time that I can remember to the age of 10, they were together. And during that time, I saw a lot of physical abuse. So being that I was my dad's only son, my mother and father, we had, my brothers and sisters, we had different parents. So my dad was someone, even though I would see my dad and, do the things that he did with my mom, I was like, still, like as a boy, you want to be with your father. But that wasn't a choice that I could make. It was up to my dad to make that choice. And I remember, like he said, my mom and dad were right there together. And she says, well, he wants to be with you. What would you like to do? He says, you can take him. And I just looked at my dad and I looked at my mom, and that's the only thing I saw my dad was just that kind of like turn his back and walk away. That was the last time I saw my dad for like 17 years. And I lived with my mom during that time. And I guess it's difficult for a mother to raise a son. And exploring, my environment as a child, teenager, I got into some activity, with drugs and alcohol that, just kind of spiraled out of control. So by the time I got in high school, everything was not like it should have been. So as I got older, I'd say probably like around 24, 25 is when it kind of started to, that in and out of not having a place to stay. So I was living the streets of Philadelphia, not having anywhere to stay by choice, but just not even wanting to stay into a shelter system because I didn't like following rules. I didn't like being in a place where you're told what to do, when to do it. Even though it was a place to sleep, I still felt that I could live the way I wanted to live, kind of freely and openly. But it was very very difficult, and it was very tough, but I still managed to keep myself out there, unfortunately. And I was exposed to some things that were just very traumatizing. That's what led me to, I think, for sure, for being unhoused, is those choices of substance use, and then not just embarrassment kind of kept me stuck there too, because I didn't want anyone to know it, so I didn't want to go around family. Kind of managed to say that I was working here and there, just not living at home. So I was actually not even being very honest with family when it came to it, because I was embarrassed.